Hi, Jim Roddy here from the RSPA with two news items before we start today's pod. First, registration is now open for Retail Now 2021, the Retail IT Channel's #1 trade show, education conference, and networking event. Join the RSPA and Retail IT Channel leaders live and in person July 25th through 27th at the Gaylord Opryland in Nashville. Retail Now will have everything you've come to expect from the RSPA, plus several new features. And a special note to our Canadian friends about their lockdowns, which is the focus of this episode today. So as we record this, the border is closed, but everyone here in the States is rooting for the situation to change for you. We'll be thrilled to see you in Nashville in July. All right, our second news item is that this podcast, The Trusted Advisor, the one that you're listening to right now, has been named one of the 100 best channel podcasts of 2021 by Forrester Research. Thanks so much to the many RSP members who've shared their insights and best practices on our show. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the RSP YouTube channel and to the Trusted Advisor podcast feed so you never miss an episode. And please rate us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. If you're a frequent Trusted Advisor listener, you already know my philosophy: the more stars, the better. For all the details about Retail Now and about the podcast, visit gorspa.org. We hope to see you at Retail Now, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Trusted Advisor podcast and video series powered by the Retail Solutions Providers Association. Our goal on the pod is to accelerate the success of today's and tomorrow's leaders in the retail IT industry. I'm Jim Roddy, back with you again. Thank you so much for joining us. In this episode, we'll focus on moving your business forward during Canada's COVID lockdowns with two members of the RSPA Canadian community. Hussain Darsi is the CEO of Loyalty Sense, a fast-growing RSPA reseller member headquartered in Calgary. Before Hussain founded the company 3 years ago, he was a senior account manager with Honeywell for 5 years, and for 6 years was a customer service manager for Telvent, a Schneider Electric company. Hey, Hussain, great to talk with you today.
Thank you, Jim, for having me.
No, yeah, glad to have you on the pod. Our second guest is Shannon Moyes. Shannon is a business development manager for software developer Volante Systems, a new RSP member with headquarters in Toronto. She's presented at many retail IT channel events in Canada. Shannon and I first crossed paths at the Blue Star ISV Connect Summit outside Toronto in 2019, and Shannon was recently a guest on Blue Star's Tech Connect podcast. Shannon, welcome to the Trusted Advisor.
Thank you, Jim. It's so great to chat with you again.
Wonderful. And just to manage your expectations, Shannon, what I'm going to do at the end of this podcast, I'm going to ask you who you enjoyed working with more, Hussain and me, or Dean Reverman and John Martin on the Blue Star podcast. We're going to ask you to make a call on that one.
Oh, no, I don't like being put on the spot.
Oh, good. That makes me even looking forward to it more if you're not up for it. So it'll be fun. No, we'll have a good time here today, and I'm sure you enjoyed your time on that podcast. We won't be judging and rating here. We'll just everybody in the channel will have fun. So, all right. Well, before the three of us talk lockdowns, can each of you give our audience an overview of your company so our listeners understand your perspective, where you're coming from? So, like, what verticals and regions do you serve? How many employees do you have? How long you've been in business and all that? So, Hussain, if you can start us first, please.
Thank you, Jim. So Loyalty Sense is a technology company. As you mentioned, we are based out of Calgary. We have been in business for 3 years now. We brand our company as a technology company, and basically we do 4 things really well and all integrated. So we do website development, point of sale systems, online ordering, and payment processing, all integrated, and we want to be one-stop shop for our customers. In terms of our team, we currently are 12 people in our team. We're just around COVID, we were about 2 people, and now we have grown to be about 12 people and constantly hiring and growing. So in terms of our verticals, really our targeted verticals are retail shops and restaurants, brick and mortar. And especially during COVID, we are very keen in helping restaurants to come online. There's multiple grants going on in Canada as well, such as BC grant that was recently launched. And we have had some customers who are interested in working with us to bring their business online.
Fabulous. Thanks for that overview, and congrats on your growth despite all the headwinds. So Shannon, tell us about Volante, please.
Yeah, Yeah, so Volante Systems, we're an enterprise point of sale provider specializing in the food and beverage and hospitality industries. We were founded in 2004, so we've been around for over 15 years, headquartered in Toronto, where it's nice and foggy here today. And the core verticals that we focus on are food service management companies. We do a lot of work with them, healthcare and hospitals, senior living, quick service and table service restaurants, in addition to larger venues, stadiums, and attractions. So lots of different industries, but really maintaining that food and beverage and hospitality focus.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much for that. And so folks know I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is actually just over the border. I'm in Northwest Pennsylvania, and we miss the shoppers coming down from Ontario to our shopping centers here. Looking forward to doing that at some point. But I always say I'm an honorary Canadian because Erie has a team in the Ontario Hockey League, and this is where Connor McDavid played his junior hockey. So that's, I guess, my Canadian bona fides at this point.
That's a great claim to fame. Love that.
It really, and I also saw him one time. My daughter and I went to get lunch at a Panera restaurant, and 4 Erie Otters were sitting around a table, and one of them was Connor McDavid. So knew him way before anybody was lining up to get his autograph back then. So
love that.
Nice.
And you knew him before I ever got to know him, because I still don't. So that's awesome.
And like, you think he's good now in the NHL? You should have seen him in junior hockey. Like, holy moly, like man among boys, no doubt about it. So all right, well, that's not the path we're going to go down. We can end up talking about that for a couple hours here. But our discussion today is about moving your business forward during the lockdowns in Canada. And so we're going to focus on 2 areas: company culture and sales. And I want to start with culture first, because that's really the foundation to organizational health. So I'm hoping each of you can dive into first, what are your organizations aiming for in terms of your culture before you talk about the tactics to keep it alive? So how does your culture differ from a typical organization? Hussain, if you can go first, talking about your culture.
Thank you, Jim. So during COVID, when everything was going down, it was the first experience everybody had in their lifetimes. The motivation, I kind of started to see the motivation start to go down, even with a small team that we had. But one of the things we did, in terms of managing our culture, is that we actually diligently started weekly meetings. And what we did is we gave opportunities to people to share ideas, and what we could do as a team to come out of this challenge. And just by doing that, we encouraged people to give new ideas that we could implement. And one of the ideas that came out is that, okay, we do POS really well, right? We do payments really well. So why can't we offer customers online ordering? Why can't we offer customers website development, right? So all services. So actually all the new things that the things that I mentioned about being a one-stop shop for our customers, it was actually came out of developing something new in our culture, being able to have those weekly meetings and giving people opportunities to talk openly about how could we improve, how could we add more value for our customers.
Got it. Thank you. And I guess those weekly meetings, what end are they working towards? I know when we connected before, we recorded this podcast, you talked about having a positive and inclusive environment. You talked about problem solvers. Is that how you would describe your Loyalty Sense culture? Like, is that stuff that's up on the wall or something that you communicate every day? Is that kind of the culture that you're aiming for, Hussain?
Yeah, part of it was problem solving, but part of it was also about, as we progressed out of this knee-jerk reaction of COVID, we also looked at our achievements, right? We made sure that we talk about our achievements on weekly basis, how we have progressed. We actually measured our performance, on monthly basis to see, okay, well, we decided to take this initiative, for example, website developments, so website development. So are we getting new customers? Is our sale in line with, bringing more customers by presenting more value to our customers, talking about one-stop shop and how can be more cohesive when we provide solutions to them. So we looked at our achievements, and I'm pleased to say that over the last year, like I said, from a team of 2 to 3 people, we have grown to 12 people because now we have proper division for marketing. We have a team that's just focused on sales along with me working with them. We have an e-commerce team, and all these different teams are very focused on serving our customers. And we took our customer service very, very seriously, as part of our culture. We never compromise our customer service, and thank God we have been able to maintain 5-star Google reviews or any platform you go to. Customers speak highly of our customer service.
Got it. Thank you for that, Hussain. I do have some follow-up questions, but I want to find out from Shannon first in terms of how would you describe Volante's culture? What are you aiming for there? What's the outcome of all the actions that we're going to talk about in a little bit?
Yeah, and it really is quite similar from the perspective of what Hussain said in terms of we really strive for solutions. At the end of the day, solutions, delivering, maintaining, and developing solutions is core to all Volantonians, if I can coin that term. And we really try to be solutions oriented. Fun is definitely on our radar of being a fun employee culture, but also being very results driven. And I think when you combine those three things, you really do build a team. We are larger than Hussain's team. We have about 110 employees right now. So maintaining that and ensuring that was instilled from leadership into every single hire that we make really does build that culture. And we're also really striving for diversity and inclusion. So we have team members from about 30 different countries as part of Volante, and that's really something to be celebrated. And that doesn't really change throughout the pandemic. We still all have our backgrounds and our stories to share. And even though we can't be in the office sharing all the delicious food from all over the world, we can still share it on the town halls that we host. So I think those are some really important things when you are trying to develop and maintain a culture, is find the problems that you're trying to solve and center your culture around the solutions that you want to deliver.
Got it. Very good. So everybody has that common goal that they're working towards, even though everybody might have all sorts of different backgrounds and be solutions oriented. So, okay, a few things that each of you had mentioned there. And Shannon, let me follow up with you first in terms of the town halls. What should we picture those are? Were those something that you did prior to the whole COVID and before all the lockdowns? And if so, how have they changed during the whole COVID crisis? Like, I'm curious, like, what intentional actions have you taken, has your company taken to keep that company culture alive and well? Talk about those town halls first, if you could.
Yeah, and Jim, I love the term intentional actions because that is what was required here. You had to take, as a business, intentional actions to really keep people engaged and keep people motivated. So town halls previously were in person, which was really fun because you don't always get to see. We actually have 2 offices in the same plaza, so you didn't always get to see everybody. So everyone would come together once a month and we all get to kind of interact. So we moved those to bi-weekly online town halls, and it's really fun. All of the core department heads kind of give an update or ask questions. And coming back to culture as well, Volante has a very open door policy. So leadership is extremely open and receptive, and it really becomes like a fun dialogue. And oftentimes, if you look at our town halls, the chat is just going and going with everyone cheering each other on or making jokes. And it's become a really nice kind of end of the week engagement where everybody can come together. And it's nice that it's become more frequent. And I certainly think that as a team, we've all benefited from making that more frequent, because so something to look forward to at the end of every second week is coming together, celebrating the successes, also highlighting new employees, employee onboarding during the pandemic, which I'm sure, Hussain, you've experienced too since you grew so quickly. Employee onboarding is a hard one. How do you onboard someone when you can't give them a tour of your office? So part of that is implementing things like employee spotlights, employee highlights, ensuring that new people get to spend time with each team member, even virtually. Those are all parts of things that really drive the culture and ensure that all of your team is still working together, understands the common goal, even though we might be all in different cities.
Great, thanks for that detail. I'm a huge fan of, you call it a town hall. Back when I used to work at Business Solutions Magazine, Jameson Publishing, it was our company lunch is what we called it. And so everybody would get together, we'd buy lunch for everybody and get together. And like you said, just get all sorts of updates. Actually, those, and we would give out awards and things of that nature, but we'd also have frank conversations like about the financials, about what was good, what wasn't good, where we were behind, you know, where we were and where we were heading. But we actually, those got to be so popular and well received. We used to have candidates who were interviewing for jobs come in, but they'd walk out of there almost intoxicated, like, that was so great, I'm going to say whatever it takes in order to come into this company, right? And so we're like, we're not going to have people go to that anymore if they're in the interview process, because they almost just thought, well, this is too good to be true, and then they kind of twist themselves in order to make sure they got hired. Can you give any more details about the town hall? Like, it went from in-person to bi-weekly. Did you change the dynamics of it from a bi-weekly standpoint, beyond the timing? Were there other things about it, just so we get a clear picture?
Yeah, we also, as part of the town hall, which we've kind of substituted what we would do in that monthly town hall into a couple avenues. So in tandem with those biweekly face-to-face over internet meetings, we also do an employee newsletter, so that goes out once a month, and that's also going to highlight things like employees of the month, different successes and projects that we've all deployed together. So the two of them kind of work together, because you also do have to be mindful that we're a 24/7 organization. Not everyone can attend the biweekly town halls because they're so busy answering support calls or building new solutions. So I think that both of those help really engage different audiences, because within your organization, you're not always going to have everyone who wants to be loud and booming on a town hall too, right? So being mindful of having people that are going to read it later or record it and review it on their own time. I think all of those ways really help maintain what's happening at the company, and everyone can stay engaged on their own time as well.
Fabulous. Thanks for that detail. And Hussain, Shannon kind of stole my next question. Like, how do you onboard during the pandemic, right? During the lockdowns, when you can't get in the office and you can't just naturally bring everybody together? I guess, can you go into some detail in terms of, with all the growth that you did during COVID, how did you build and maintain that unique culture, especially with the new employees?
Yeah, Jim, good question. Like, as a small company, honestly, like around COVID time, our processes were all over the place. A new employee would come in and, I would just give them, okay, here's how our business looks like. And, they would continue to ask me questions. Okay, how do I get Microsoft Office or this or that? There were a lot of gaps, right, in our process. So one of the things we did is that we formalized that process, prepared a document step by step. So when the employee joins us, obviously giving doing a one-on-one session with them, talking about the business, but they have like a step by step. Okay, this is how our shared drives are structured. This is where you go to install Microsoft Office. So that becomes part of the process. Very organized and saves us hours and hours. Then an email goes out to the entire team that, okay, we have a new employee, right, with their expertise highlighting, where they will be contributing. And then we do a formal introduction as part of our weekly meeting.
Got it. Great. Thank you for those details. Gives me a chance to quote my college basketball coach. He used to say, if it starts right, it finishes right. Right. So if you get a new employee coming on board in their first day, it's like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with you. But if you got a checklist for them to follow down, they're going to go, okay, this organization, has its act together. Any other details in terms of like how you built the company during COVID? Because it seems like it'd be hard to even do interviews or to, I want to say check on somebody's work, but really to do all sorts of training where it's so easy to just, hey, go sit next to so-and-so or go travel with so-and-so. What have you done from, I guess, an introduction and just an ongoing onboarding process from a tasks, from a culture standpoint as well, Hussain?
Yeah, and I'll give you a bit of a reference about my Honeywell days, right? When I worked for Honeywell, it was a large company with all the resources available in the world. And, with a small company like ours, a lot of challenges in terms of thinking, okay, how do I bridge that gap so that even though I'm a small company, but I can operate like a bigger company. And thanks to the technology, right? We have Office 365, lots of tools available now that just on your fingertips, right? You can just go sign up. And all the resources that I had at Honeywell, I'm glad to say that I'm able to provide to our team, to our company, in a very agile way, right? Without paying thousands and thousands of dollars for VPN and IT networks and all that. So we really leverage the technology. We have proper plans on Microsoft Office 365, with Microsoft Teams and everything set up. So when the new employee starts, it's just like, it takes literally like 5 minutes for us to set up a new account. Obviously, everything can be more secure and more better and everything, but uh, with the built-in security, with encryption and everything, I feel very comfortable that we have all these tools available at the fingertips that helps us bring our new employees on board and be more successful and be able to collaborate, right? That gap of being in person, being in the office, sitting in the cubicles. I really miss that. I really miss those lunches. Honestly, like that's a dream now. That when things will open up, we'll uh, like we can do company lunches. But one other thing I want to bring to your attention is that even though we work remotely, what we are trying to do is every couple of weeks we have a boardroom here in our office with social distancing in place, and we have very nice atrium too outside. There's like real trees, even it's inside. It's cold outside most of the year here, but it's a very nice atrium area. I love this place. So we just have a get together, right, with social distance. So we're trying to bridge that gap socially that COVID has created us. So we are being very creative, and as a small company, we're very agile and looking for opportunities, right? There's no dull moment. Uh, as soon as things start to, like, everybody's working remotely, well, let's meet, right? Let's have a quick get together. We can wear our masks, and it's not like we have to do a big town hall. Just a small team of people can just have a get together and bridge that social gap.
Got it. Great. Thanks for doing that. It's, one thing that you said, and I really like the point that you made. Just because you're a smaller company, just because you're smaller than someone else, doesn't mean you have to be less than someone else, right? There are tools available to you. They might not be as completely sophisticated as what Honeywell or somebody else needs, but there are tools available. You've got to take that principled step of just because we're smaller than doesn't mean that this thing is going to be a free for all, right? We're going to have a disciplined onboarding process. We're going to be run like a well-run company, no matter if we have 5 people or we have 500 people. So I love you bring that up. One other point, Hussain, I'm curious to find this out from you. You had mentioned, before as we were planning for this this interview, that you have the weekly huddles and cameras have to be on. Like, did I interpret that correctly? Like, you have to have your camera on. I guess, why do you do that? How do you manage that? Because a lot of times folks don't want to have their cameras on in this environment. Can you get into some more detail with that if you don't mind?
Yeah, I mean, initially we didn't used to have cameras on. So one of the marketing managers, she actually she has been she was actually one of the first employees we hired last year. And again, with a small company, we are in the position to give more and more opportunities to our employees to give new ideas. There's no political agenda. It's very open and transparent kind of an environment. So when you have that kind of environment and people are able to contribute their ideas, they're empowered, they're motivated, and that all of that kind of forms part of your culture. So it was actually her idea that she said, okay, well, we do these meetings, and some people are comfortable, can be sitting in different parts of the world, uh, and she said, why don't we come up with this all cameras on, right? So we did that, and honestly, like, since we have done that, it's definitely led to again bridging that social gap. People can feel what other people are saying, help understanding other people's feelings, and build that understanding and team kind of environment, right? That sure, it was better in-person meetings, but it's not too bad, right? I mean, we work with what's available to us today, right?
Exactly. Got it. Thank you for that. No, and thanks, to both of you for that feedback in terms of specifically what you're doing. I also want to share, well, first I can share with our listeners, those who are consuming this on the audio only, on the Trusted Advisor podcast, we do have a mandatory cameras on policy, so we can all see each other and record it for our YouTube channel. So we do follow that policy here as well. Some other RSPA members have done a get together where they have a musical guest actually come on, and like somebody who they knew, and play, the guitar and sing some songs for them. Like, it's just a break from the day to day. I've seen gift card giveaways as well. We've also hosted some workshops for some RSP members as well, talking about either accountability or customer service or communication techniques. And then also the RSP just launched in early May, Accelerate, an online e-learning program, and so that's a way for folks to take some courses, test themselves, get some, pass through some things, and be able to get make some traction in terms of building their career. I've heard some folks do that as well, where they have like a mandatory training session to keep folks again out of the day-to-day, here I am in my same apartment at the same desk staring at the same screen every day kind of thing. So, all right, before we take a commercial break, Shannon, if you can answer this one first, like, culture can be almost an ethereal thing. Like, how do you know that your efforts are working, right? What steps are you taking to stay close to the team and to learn what's enhancing your culture, and what activities are maybe more just a noise or a distraction? So Shannon first, and then Hussain.
Yeah, I think there's three things. The first one is quite obvious. It's retention. Are you able to retain the talent that you have? Are people willing to join your company, and are they staying with your organization? The second one I would say is definitely engagement. Are people attending the activities that you're offering for them? Are they actively participating in what you're trying to do? And the third would be gathering feedback. I think it's really important to just straight up ask people, what would it mean to you? I mean, we recently sent out a company survey of what content do you want to see on our channels? What do you connect well with in terms of what do you want to learn more about from POS technology? So really just driving that engagement with people, I think, is the best indicator of the success of your culture. And I think retention, engagement, and of course, feedback, I think those are the three things you really need to focus on.
And do you solicit the feedback, or is it just like, we haven't heard anything, so everything must be okay? Or is there something you do to actually tap people on the shoulder?
Yeah, definitely feedback that gets reviewed by leadership, and then based on that, it's going to get implemented. So we really try to make kind of conscious decisions of priorities of what are people enjoying, maybe what are people less enjoying, maybe we can cut that from the town hall. So we do really take the feedback to heart, because at the end of the day, you want people to stay connected. You want them to enjoy getting up in the morning, and you want them to be committed to that culture that you have of delivering solutions.
Got it. Great. Yeah, don't assume that your activities are perfectly aligned with what they're doing. I always say there's no substitute for a competent person getting closer to a situation. So before you say the team's going to love this, ask the team, would you love this? Do you love this? How are you receiving this? No substitute for that. No real magic to doing that. You just have to take the initiative. So, all right. And Hussain, how are you making sure that this is working?
Yeah, Jim, this is honestly, like, personally, I feel it's a really tough one for us as a small company. But even like I said, we try different things in terms of our employee engagement. Employee engagement is huge. The retention is huge, because it takes hours and hours to hire a new employee, onboard them, train them, and that's lost productivity, right? That's lost ROI. It's really tricky, but the benefit is that with our company, as a small company, with a small team, we are able to speak to each other on daily basis, right? In a large company, like, not the CEO can talk to other team members. So I'm very approachable. If somebody wants to talk to me on Microsoft Teams, they can just send me a message. Once I finish my meetings and phone calls and stuff, or I'll just let them know I'll get back to you. So right away, like, I can set up a quick meeting. If it's not urgent, can we schedule something, right? So very approachable, right? That way, right? Unlike other company, and this is how we differentiate ourselves right now, because I am, as a CEO of the company, I'm accessible to them, right? So if they have any specific problems or something that I want to resolve, that agility, being able to handle the problems and help them, I believe that the team really appreciates that.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you should be accessible. There's sometimes where CEOs, even it's an 8-person organization, they don't make themselves accessible, or people don't feel like they have the opportunity. Like, I have an open door policy, but when you come into my office, you can get slammed. So yeah, very important for you to. It sounds like you're really, top to bottom through everything you do, really creating that kind of culture and getting that message across.
Absolutely.
Wonderful, thank you. I do have to just share one tip. So when you start, if anybody does in-house town halls, like we did company lunches, so I would, once I was president of a company for 11 years, and so I would give some updates. I had one person, her name was Tracy, and she was really good. Like, she would make eye contact with you and smile and be listening. We had one employee, I won't give his name, where he would fall asleep every time I was giving the presentation. And there's nothing more deflating when you're talking to the group and you look over and you just see somebody with their head nodding off. So make sure you feel your team has as many Tracys in the room as you you can, so you get people who are nodding and encouraging you to keep talking there. So just have to handle that. And I'm sure some people who know me are listening and like, he's not the only one you put to sleep. So, all right, well, let's pause here. It's a good time for everybody to recollect, get a quick snooze, and let our listeners and viewers know an RSP membership has never been more valuable or more affordable. Annual memberships for VARs start at just $250 US for a year of dozens of high-value services, including access to a legal advisor, a security advisor, and a VAR and ISV business advisor, exclusive e-learning opportunities through the RSPA Academy Accelerate program, discounts on business services, and a college scholarship program for the families of RSPA reseller members like Hussain. Vendors and software developers benefit from an RSPA membership as well through introductions to VAR and ISV members and by showcasing their solutions through the exclusive RSPA Solutions Center. Accelerate your success by joining the RSPA today. Also, thank you to our sponsors who support the RSPA community and make this podcast and video series possible. Our platinum sponsors are Blue Star and Shift4 Payments. Our gold sponsors are Heartland and ScanSource. And with this being a special episode sponsored by the RSPA Canadian community, we want to thank the sponsors of that group, Blue Star Global Payments, Payment Tree, and Star Micronics. To receive the benefits of an RSPA membership or RSPA sponsorship, email membership@gorspa.org. Finally, don't forget to save the date for Retail Now 2021, July 25th through 27th in Nashville. Retail Now is where the industry meets, and we are hoping and praying that the border will be opened before then, so Shannon, Hussain, and all our other Canadian community members can make the trek down to Nashville. I'd love to see you guys in person as opposed to management by Zoom as we're doing right now. So, all right, so that was culture. We want to spend the rest of our conversation talking about sales. So Shannon, if you can go first, and if you can tell us about the special actions that your company has taken during the pandemic from a sales and marketing standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. So from a sales and marketing standpoint, there was a couple things that we really doubled down our efforts on. And then there were a couple things that we were like, hey, let's get creative. Let's try this out. We don't really have trade shows. So the first thing that was a really big priority for us was our content strategy. So we took a lot of effort and resources into building a stronger online presence that really articulates our value through trying to become as much of a trusted source as we can for our partners. So there was a lot of problems for different businesses throughout the pandemic, and what better way to help them than by providing resources and access to resources through social media. So that was definitely a big priority. One of the things we did that was a little bit more creative and out of the box was we actually did a direct mail campaign, which was not traditionally something that most people are doing nowadays. It's usually more of like an online BD campaign or an email campaign. But we figured, hey, maybe people will want to receive some direct mail. So we tried that out. We really just tried to put our heads together and come up with ways to articulate our value without necessarily being face to face. And I think we did a great job in terms of growing that online content presence and really removing that focus from sell, and just start really reminding everybody, why are we all here? What problems are we trying to solve? And how can we bring each other together through online resources? So I think that was really the approach that we took. And coming into 2021, it's definitely fared us very well from the way that we are now building all of our relationships and now really hitting our goals. So it's been pretty good.
Great. And so I think a lot of people are doing, digital marketing and starting to do content marketing. Talk a little bit more about that direct mail campaign. Is that something that you've always been doing? Because a lot of folks have just kind of written that off. But, now that everybody's getting so many emails and all we do is stare at screens, it seems like that would certainly stand out from the crowd. Can you give any more color in terms of the thought process and then the execution of the direct mail campaign?
Yeah, it was really fun for us because like you said, it's not really something that people do a lot nowadays, especially point of sale. I've never gotten a point of sale brochure in the mail. So we really, we tried to just treat it like we would at a trade show. So what kind of things do you give away at trade shows? Maybe your little swag bags, your little phone cleaners, little masks that we had custom branded, but then also just reminding people that we're here to help. We have technology solutions that can help healthcare, that can help food service management. We launched that out to lots of different people. We sent out a little mail package, just directed it to basically the front desk in hopes that reception, it would catch their eye and then people would remember our name. So it was really fun. It was an interesting thing to put together, and we will definitely be doing them again in the future, just as we transition back to hopefully going to trade shows like you said. I think it was a really good approach to still trying to get yourself out there without necessarily picking up the phone or sliding in via email. It was an interesting way to get yourself in front of them, and I'm happy that we did it.
Good. And I know a lot of times folks that I work with, both VARs and ISVs, people think you send out a direct mail, and boy, the way that that's going to work is people start calling you up or emailing you, or I'd like to place my order. And can you talk about, did you get that reaction for it? I have to be honest, I've never seen that before. Or is it more you're planting a seed in the prospect's mind, so when you call up, they can say, oh yeah, I do remember seeing that, or it does sound familiar. Can you talk about how you used that tool and what you did after you drop it in the mail?
Yeah, it's kind of the same approach you take at a trade show, right? You're not really going to a trade show expecting for a contract to be signed then and there. You're more just hoping in the future they're going to remember you from your booth, from maybe a nice conversation that you had, or by the technology you had in your booth, or even just something you brought up as they walked by. And really that was the approach we took with the direct mail, is what can we link together that maybe they'll remember us by in the future? Even if it's just something like our little blue logo, it's just another way to put yourself in front of people, connect with them, and make sure people understand that you know what they're going through as a senior living community, as a hospital, as a restaurant. And part of that doesn't have to be, like you said, over the phone. It can just be through sending them something. So it was a fun campaign to do. I think there was a lot of benefit to it, and we're going to continue it in the future for sure.
Great. And a lot of marketing guidance says you have to touch somebody 9 times before they're going to start moving one way or another. And I think oftentimes people think an email counts as one, but if it doesn't get delivered, right, or if they don't open it up or they don't actually review it, it counts as maybe a quarter of a touch there. So yeah, direct mail is a great way to go. Again, a little bit more expensive, time consuming, but you can certainly get somebody's attention there. So thanks. Hussain, what are some of the things that you guys did from an organizational standpoint during the pandemic in terms of sales and marketing?
Yeah, so I would say there are 2 things that we put a lot of effort on. One is our online presence, improving our online presence, running some digital ads, improving our brand, so that, one way or the other, if customers find us, they kind of know that, okay, this company exists. Yeah, I've seen their ad, or I have seen their flyer at this location. So basically, online presence was huge for us, like improving the content, and that's an ongoing effort, right? I call marketing as smoke and mirrors, right? It's hit and miss. Sometimes you get right place, right time, and here's an opportunity, right, that you secure. And we just did recently, right? Like secured a very large opportunity in a cannabis space in Canada, where I kind of saw our brand working, where we were at different places, and this company found us. They looked at our Google reviews, all of a sudden set up a meeting, and they said that moving forward, we'll be buying all the hardware from you, right? You will be the sole source for all our customers. So huge win about a week and a half ago. And some things like that would take probably like 15 months, 18 months, a long time. If you're constantly pursuing that consciously. But I really saw the power of branding, and some of the effort that we put in that space. The second thing I would say is that strategic partnerships, right? So I had an idea where a lot of restaurant owners in town, they go to restaurant equipment supply shop, right? So they would go and buy their supply. So if a new restaurant is opening up, they would definitely make it there. So we formed partnership with 2 companies locally here, LP Sales and HESCO. They're 2 reputable companies in Calgary. Talked to the owners, and they said, and I said, we are in COVID and this difficult situation, like getting our message across for solution. And they were very cooperative. They gave us a space in their location, at their location, and we were able to set up 2 booths at both locations, and we have been very successful in generating leads when it comes to our solution sales. So talking about sales specifically, I have a couple of sales professionals who actually go there and stand there like 3 to 4 times a week at those booths. And as the customer comes in, they talk about the solutions and how we can help them. And it's a perfect time, right? Either the restaurant is opening up, or maybe they're quite established, but they're just looking for an online ordering solution. So with that, we have had very good success. So I would say those 2 things: online presence and strategic partnerships locally with different companies.
Yeah, so that all seems like super, I don't hate the cliche out of the box thinking, but that seems out of the box thinking, right? Like that is not like your stereotypical, here's what, marketing does, here's what sales does, I guess. How did you come up with this, Hussain? Was it your idea? Was it a team idea? Did you work with a marketing agency? I guess, how did you get from zero to where you are in terms of from that creative sales standpoint?
Honestly, like, one day I woke up during COVID and I was like, do I sustain this company and grow this company, or do I go back to work find a full-time job? It was pretty difficult, and I closed my door. I sat down for 2 hours thinking about different ideas, how I can grow this business, right? And out of that situation of difficulty, there's an opportunity. It's time and time again said that, as human being, when we are in a difficult situation, either we fight or we fly, right? We run away from those situations. So I decided to fight, and I decided to fight with myself internally, that what are some of the ideas that I can come up with, right? So all of a sudden, that's when the spark happened about, okay, where do restaurants go, right? Or restaurant owners go all the time. And, out of that situation, this idea popped up, and I actually made a couple of phone calls. I also, one of our sales guys, Mickey, he knows Hesco, one of the managers at Hesco very well, Brian. And you use my network, right? And in my olden days, like when I was in school, I never believed in the power of networks, because it was like, you're a student, you don't get a lot of attention. But when you come in real world, uh, your network is your net worth. And that entire idea about networking and trying to leverage the context, working with our team, having that confidence and asking for help genuinely, right? Like, I need some help here. And both LP Sales and Hasco, they have been very open that, oh well, it's not that we are doing favor to you, are doing favor to us, because a lot of our customers ask us, do you know a POS company, or do you do POS? So in their entire solution, people may purchase different things, or maybe they're designing their kitchen, and as part of the design of the kitchen, they'll say, well, this is how your POS kitchen printer will fit in, right? So that sparks a conversation. It's like, okay, they become one-stop shop, we become one-stop shop for technology. So it's a win-win situation.
Fabulous. I love that answer, and I love how you, you were unsettled by what you're going through from a COVID standpoint. Kind of saw I have two choices, but you decided to fight, and not just give a fight like, give a weak punch, right? You're like, if I'm going to fight, I'm going to be in this fight, and I really, really love that. Thanks for opening up to us and sharing that story. So that's fantastic. One other question for you about for both of you about sales, and then I have one general question I'm hoping. So Shannon, so both of you are responsible for generating sales in your organization. And Shannon, if you can go first and talk about, like, how have you approached sales during the pandemic? Like, what have you personally done differently, and how have you kept your own individual spirits lifted, during a very difficult sales environment? What have you do to keep things moving?
Yeah, so sales has ups and downs. If I've learned anything in my several years of sales, that is it. So for me, the pandemic wasn't that different. It's considered a period where you're going to have ups and downs, and that's just part of sales and the sales cycle in general. So really the core things that I approach all of our relationships in the business with did not change. I still want to bring value. I still want to be myself, and I want to be a good partner. And bringing that to the table through the pandemic and now, it didn't change. It just, maybe my delivery changed because I'm not knocking on your door in your office. I am on the camera through webcam, but really just keeping those guiding principles really helps keep me as a salesperson strong, is remembering the value that I bring, remembering that I am trying to help and how can I help, being myself and just trying to provide solutions really carried us through the pandemic, and it has led to a very good start to 2021 for us. And I think that's important. I don't think you need to stray from who you are and the things that you do right just because the world environment has changed. Maybe you need to be a little bit more sensitive, but keep those things that keep you successful, you don't need to change those. Just be yourself and continue to roll with the punches.
Yeah, I love that. And if you don't mind me asking, how did you get, like, knocking on somebody's door and walking in, right? Like, there's no secret to doing that. How did you get the Zoom meetings? How did you get these webcam meetings? Was there anything that you did in particular, or was it more just perseverance and following up with people?
Well, I like what Hussain said about your network being your net worth. We really revisited all of the people that we've ever met face to face. Everyone we've met at all the different festivals we go to, like Leading Age, RSPA, Blue Star, revisiting all of those. Everybody's going through struggles. Let's just reconnect with the people that we know and see what might bite or what might turn into somebody that we can help. That's really where we focused it, and that's how we were able to thrive and continue to support people through the pandemic and now.
Got it. Yeah, they're not calling you. You gotta go get them. You gotta press those buttons. That network just can't sit there by itself. You've gotta tap into it. Hussain, how about you? Because you're responsible for everything in the organization, but sales is a big part of it. What did you do personally to drive sales during the lockdowns? What have you continued to do during these lockdowns?
Yeah, so one of the messages, Jim, that I had for the team is that, and I always have, right, since I started the company, that we will do the right thing for our customer every single day, right? It's about doing the right thing over winning the sales for a solution that we may not be able to deliver. So it's about being transparent, honest with our customer, right? So, in terms of increasing sales, like we talked about those strategic partnerships with our with some local vendors here, including LP Sales, HESCO, and putting our flyers out there at different shops. So people are visiting, other merchants are visiting those shops, and they'll pick up the flyer, they'll call us. We tried some telemarketing. We ran some ads. We tried many different channels to get to our customers, potential customers, and part of it is also like improving our brand, right? Maybe they don't buy us from today, but in about maybe 7 months from now, when they're ready, they know, okay, who they need to talk to, right? Locally in Calgary, right? So local presence, connecting with the community here locally, that okay, we are available, getting our message out in different platforms, so that maybe somebody is looking for a drawer, right? And they come to buy a drawer from us, and they say, well, do you guys do other things as well? Yes, we do, right? Okay, we can help you build a website. We can do payment processing. Oh, I'm paying too much for payment processing, right? So we can help you there. So like just kind of, again, there's no perfect recipe. It's not like 1 + 1 = 2. And sales and marketing, like I said, it's smoke and mirrors, right? And sometimes it bothers me a lot. Some days I'm like, oh, I just don't want to do this, right? Can somebody just take care of this? because it's like, it's not like you do something and you get exact result. It's like you put so much effort out there, and you hope that somebody is going to get attention. Somebody is going to pay attention to your brand. So we did try different channels. We did most of it, like we leveraged our strategic partnerships. Trying to bring more people on board, talk about it. Sometimes we did referral bonuses to other people who would bring leads to us. So that was also instrumental in bringing in new sales to our company.
Interesting. And I'm Carl Polachuk is a managed services provider guru, gives a bunch of advice, has written a lot of books, and he has a saying that always burns in my brain, and who's saying what you've been talking about really, punctuates what Carl says. He says, nothing happens by itself, right? Like things aren't just going to suddenly show up to you. You've got to push. You don't know if what you push is going to happen, but certainly nothing happens by itself. So you certainly have to try something. So, all right, we are right up against our time. So last question, we like to ask our guests from time to time, hoping you guys could answer in 30 seconds or less. Can you recommend for our audience a book to read, an online resource to follow, or a podcast to listen to that'll help them improve their organization? Hussain first.
Okay. Yeah, so Jim, during this pandemic, I was talking to people all across the country, right? Our partners, our supplier of services or products. One referral somebody gave me, and I would say that obviously our trusted advisor podcast. In addition to that, I would say look into CC Sales Pro. It's run by James Shepard. He does really, really good podcasts when it comes to payment processing. And it's a US based, so a lot of concepts does apply to Canada, but there's some that doesn't. But in terms of sales coaching and how to how to make cold calls with clients, how to secure appointments when it comes to payment processing, it's a very competitive industry. I do believe that he does a fantastic job. And his podcast, and if you go to his website, there's some free ebooks that you can download. I have tremendously benefited because being in the industry for 3 years is very different than being in the industry for 15 years. And you have so many gaps that you realize, like some weeks I feel, oh my God, I've caught up to speed on this technology and that technology. And when you listen to those podcasts, be it the Trusted Advisor one or the CC Sales Pro, you get different insights from different people and you get new ideas. And these are some of the ideas. If the companies in the space, which is fairly competitive, they start to implement, I believe that not only they can survive, but they can thrive, even in the toughest times. It's basically you got to keep developing, growing, because if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah. Well said. Great advice. And I've written down CC Sales Pro, CC standing for credit card. People aren't thinking it's SEE. Shannon, what resource or resources do you recommend?
I have a few. First is the Blue Star Tech Connect podcast. Definitely loved being a part of that. Lots of good stuff on there. The second one is more of a personal one. It's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Love that book. If you haven't checked it out, it's super famous for a reason. And I also heard The Walk-On Method by Jim Roddy is a good read. So I definitely recommend that one if you haven't checked it out yet.
Well, clearly Shannon knows how to research and how to sell. Based on that answer. So, all right. Well, very nice. And yeah, 7 Habits of Successful People. Those watching on YouTube, I have a bookshelf behind me, and that's definitely one that's on the shelf. I have to tell you, I didn't read it early on in my career. And just like you said, it's famous. And I'm like, people are like, I'm sure you read that. I'm like, I actually haven't, but it's fabulous for anybody of any age too. I guess that's hopefully what you took away from it. Like, it doesn't matter how many years you've been in the industry or if it's, giving it to a student, but there's a lot to glean from that.
Agreed. It's always relevant.
Wonderful. Super, thank you. Well, a couple recommendations for resources that I would have is to join the Canadian community, to be part of the RSPA Canadian community. Also attend the Canadian community event that we're still hopeful that we're going to have at Retail Now, July 25th through 27th in Nashville. And then we're hoping at some point, again, once it's post-lockdown, that we can have an in-country event like we always do. We tend to have 2 of those every year in Canada for our Canadian members, and we tend to have one in the Toronto area, and then we tend to have one out west as well to serve both folks from our Canadian community who are on this podcast today again. So stay tuned for that. And again, if you're not an RSP member, make sure that you join so you can be in the loop for all this information. So, all right, well, that does it for this episode of The Trusted Advisor. We really hope that you enjoyed our discussion. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the RSPA YouTube channel and the Trusted Advisor podcast so you never miss an episode. We'd also appreciate if you'd rate us wherever you find your favorite podcast. My personal philosophy is the more stars, the better. And if you'd like to learn more best practices for VARs and ISVs in the retail technology industry, check out the RSPA blog. You can find it at gorspa.org and then clicking on RSPA blog. Before we go, big thanks again to Shannon and Hussain for sharing their wisdom with us today. Great information, great passion for both of you. Really appreciate that. Thanks also to RSPA Marketing Manager Chris Arnold for his production work, Joseph McDade for our music, and last but not least, thanks so much to you for listening. Our goal at the RSPA is to accelerate the success of our members in the point of sale ecosystem by providing knowledge and connections. For more information, visit our website at gorspa.org. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, everybody.